Hello and welcome. I'm Herman Stewart, and you are listening to Finding Your Path podcast, a place where we will hear from our guests on how they found their path in life, family, and their careers. Today, we will be spending time with Zoe Bennett, who is recognized for her motivational speaking and the MBCC award she founded.
Guess what? You are stronger than anything that can try and pull you down. And that's what did it for me. And that's what I would say. Strengthen yourself, strengthen your mind.
Wow. During this talk, Zoe had so much to share about her life journeys, the joys and the trials, and what has helped her to become who she is. This is good. So let's dive in. Hi Zoe, how are you?
Hi, Herman. I'm good, thank you.
Oh, it's great to have you here. But before we even kick off, I'm going to have to give an introduction to those that don't know of who Zoe Bennett is. Zoe Bennett, also known as the Motivational Queen, is one of the UK's most sought after inspirational speakers. You may ask, why do people call her the Motivational Queen? Well, that's because she inspires confidence and creates transformation in other people through one-to-one mentoring as well as group sessions that she delivers. And she does so much more. She does training, motivational speaking. She's an inspirer. She does so many things. So I'm just so grateful to have her today on the show. How are you today, Zoe?
Absolutely tickety-boo. How about you? How are you, Herman?
I am good. I've really been waiting. I've been waiting for this day, for the start of the podcast and for doing all this, and just having people like yourself in to share and share your story and what you've done. So I'm just really excited. How have you found today already?
I find it great being around you. You're such an inspiration, and actually starting this is fantastic. So I'm happy to be here.
Oh, wow. So I really want to just have a conversation today, as you know what the podcast is about. It's just about sharing. It's about the process behind success and, helping people to find their path. Want to discover more about your path and how you found your way. So right now you're recognized as a well sought after speaker and all the things that you do. But how did you start on this path? How did you even get to this space?
How I started was not the way that most people would think, that I thought I wanted to be a speaker, then I went for it, did what I needed to do to be a speaker. Never happened that way. And most people in life will realise that actually where they are right now, when they're at the sweet spot, isn't exactly where they started. It is a journey, and it's a journey through experiences that actually can detour you off the path and actually take you down another path. And actually it's not necessarily meant to be a straight path. It's meant to be something that you find things along the way that are great, that are not so great, but it's how you decipher it that determines your future and how you process it, and what your values and your morals are along that road.
Yeah, okay, that's good. So when you was young, did you see yourself as a speaker? When you was at school, did you see that this is something that you would do, or was it something that you was even aiming for? Were there clues to the fact that you would be in front of people and feel confident and ready to inspire them?
Never, not in the slightest. My dad was the greatest showman of all time. No matter where he went to, no matter who he was around, whether he was in front of a group of German people, a group of his own peers, his own ethnicity, doesn't matter, in front of police officers, they used to just gravitate to him and just hang on every single word he would say. I used to literally look and observe with my mouth wide open. I just couldn't understand it, and I'm like, I can never be like that in my head. I'm like, I can never be that way. How does he do it? So he started the first ever West Indian community centre club in Preston, Lancashire, called Jalgo Sports and Social Club, in my grandma's living room. He's a real community guy. So everything he led with was about people.
Okay.
So he made it his business to understand people, to care about people, to get the best out of people, to drive people, to push people, to elevate people, and to support people. So if you cut him open, it's about supporting people straight through him. And honestly, it just used to baffle me that in my head, I was saying, I'm so lucky I've got my dad, because he can just do all that for me. He can open the doors for me. He can speak on my behalf. He can, and I never envisaged that I would even be anywhere close to what he could do and how he could command the room. So no, never. And I was always told as well by my teachers, because I went to a posh school in Preston. It was seen the posh school at the time. When you look back, it's not that posh, but I was one of the only few black people. There was only in the beginning 2 of us, just me and my brother, and then probably towards the end another 2 came along. So I literally was told by these teachers that I'd amount to be nothing, and so I believed in that. And I used to truant a lot from school myself, so I hardly went to school. I used to actually go and play poker at his house, and literally, and it so happened, I know, it's mad, isn't it? I was actually meant to take my exams, didn't know which days they were on, but the day I actually decided to turn into school, it was very rare that I turned into school, my exams were actually on, so I never did any prep work or anything whatsoever, and I thought to myself, I'll just take it anywhere while I'm here. Took my exams, and I actually got A's, B's and C's and 1 D. Yeah, seriously. Wow. So that moment made me realise that actually you cannot be defined by what box people want to put you in and how they want to tell you are. You must tell yourself who you are and be who you are on your own terms. And as a consequence of that, I was living in Preston at the time. I couldn't get into any of the colleges because the teachers, they have to give the estimated grades before you take the exams, and they gave me Fs and Us, so I wouldn't even get graded. So I couldn't get in. So I ended up having to move all the way down to Nottingham just to get into People's College. And literally about a few months in, I got really sick, really ill. Okay. And my dad brought me back to Preston. And so once I got better, it was now, so imagine starting September is the beginning of the school year. So by the time I was ready to go into college, I had to take any course and back in Preston. So I just did the business administration.
Okay.
And in the business administration course, obviously everyone else has started. And by only a few months later, it finished it for that year. Only 5 people out of 24 people actually completed it and passed. Wow. And I was one of those people.
One of the 5?
Yeah. Oh, and so there you go. So it made me realise now that, do you know what, I take control of who I am, what I am, and what I'm going to go and do. So that was it.
Wow. What a journey. You know, when you find people that are very inspiring, a lot of times they've got a really inspirational story in the sense of they had to be inspired to overcome their own obstacles and their own hurdles and their challenges. And just to hear that in school you weren't the model pupil, but you made your way, you was bright, clearly a talent because you got great grades and you never even put everything in. But what really stood out to me when you were just sharing is just how much you spoke so highly of your dad. You know, a lot of times in our communities and when you got young people that necessarily they don't see their dads or they're not working around their dads or their dads are not necessarily around them to inspire them in that way. But just how much you shared about your dad, it was so encouraging. And was it always that way from just you being knee high and seeing him and just tell me a bit more about just your dad?
Everybody wants to be around him.
Yeah.
Everybody. And to be fair, as much as he's a great guy, because he was so involved in the community and about helping everybody else, his time with us wasn't really the time that as children should get from their parents.
Yeah.
My mother, on the other hand, was a complete opposite. And another thing that really pushes and inspires me is just to not be like her.
Okay.
So
Okay.
That's just straight up. She wasn't ambitious or anything at all. And everything that she, as a consequence of driving and even getting her education, I pushed her. I actually paid for her lessons, everything you can think of. And I just never wanted to be like that. I wanted to be somebody that was a go-getter, that when you put your mind to it, you do it. You not just say you're doing it, but fulfill it and just make a difference in life. So yeah. So with having that experience of not wanting to be like that, but also seeing what I wanted to get to, where my dad was like dizzy heights. Yeah. Listen, if I could even be half the person that my dad was, then I would be the most happiest person on the planet, and I would know I've fulfilled something just to get close, even a smidgen to what he was.
Wow. That's such a powerful testimony, you know, and just sharing and just hearing And it's funny that it's the opposite way around, you know. And to tell the truth, everyone's family is different, you know. They look at their different parents in different ways, and just to hear that it's the dad that really, you know, has inspired you, I feel that to me as a dad is encouraging, you know, to be able to even hear that. And what I want to find out a bit more about is when you was going along your journey. So you went college and you one of the 5 that got through and so forth. What were some of the next things that you done? Because when we're looking at your path to where you are now, you've really elevated. You've really become a thought leader in your space, and it's great. It would be great to find out a bit more about what were some of the first careers that you had.
Okay. If you really want to go there, the first ever thing that I had was, in fact, the first ever thing I had it for a day. I worked on the market in Preston on a fruit and veg stall.
Okay, wow.
And I had it for a day. Honestly, you had to calculate everything in your head, and you know, in them days, the weights, it was a scale. It was none of this digital kind of scales or anything. So I had that for a day, and after that, I worked in a chicken shop.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, I used to work at, and then beyond that, I worked in the kebab shop, pizza kebab shop.
Okay.
But then the real world work, I was a loss adjuster secretary. So, you know, the people go out and assess damage to properties, and they talk into a dictaphone. Yeah, in those days it was a dictaphone. We had those tap, tap, tap typewriters, and it goes back, you know. So they would send in the actual the transcript, and I would have to literally transcribe it, because I could type really fast, touch type. And then we'd have to do the reports based off that. So that's the first thing. And then I went for this job because I really wanted to get into travel. And I actually went for the job at Gold Medal Travel, and I never got it. Okay. But before I actually got it, the process that I took, I got my CV together, got 100 envelopes, and I posted it to every travel department that you could think of, every travel company you could think of. And this was the only one that came back to me. And I went for first of all, they got it and I said, oh, we'll keep it on file. So I didn't get it straight away. But I persevered. So it's one thing, just because you don't get it the first time, just don't give up. That's the thing. That's the key message.
Yes.
So I went to the actual meeting. I didn't get it on my own merit. Figure this out. So at the time, because in that industry, in that particular company, there was no black people in the company.
Okay.
She blatantly says to me, we don't have any diversity, and we're going to give you the job.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
she said, first of all, I like your coat. I'm going to give you the job.
So it must have been a nice coat as well.
There you go. So literally, from there, I just haven't looked back. And it wasn't like a glamorous job. It was on the call. It was like a switchboard kind of thing. So you're taking the calls in, your dynamic package, and I worked my way through departments. And at the time, my dad was just constantly, he's just a lecturer, he'd never like official lecturer, but he lectured me. And in terms of, as a kid, you think he's lecturing, but he isn't. He's steering you. You get that now. Yeah. So things like shortcuts, no make it, and, you know, it's never too late for a shower of rain. So when I'm like, it's not there. It will happen. He always says, it will happen, kid. It will happen, kid. Yeah. So, and just lots of things, take the emotion out, put the passion in. You know, and that's something, and I have to say, as black people, that we do suffer with, and we're very emotional when we do express ourselves, and it's not a bad thing, just that people misconstrue it, our passion for something else. And one thing that he taught me, which is really important, is that never interrupt somebody. And it says, even if you're correct in what you're going to interrupt them about, as soon as you interrupt them, you're wrong.
Wow.
And the reason why is because you could have interrupted them, giving you an opportunity. You might have stopped them just by you cutting them off. You don't know what comes beyond the words. And that's what helps me writing that. So, for instance, I've got some deals, and that's because I just shut up.
Okay.
And let them talk.
Yeah.
Not like I'm not talking now, but hey ho. Yeah, give me the microphone. So
it's your time. It's your time, Zoe.
So for me, it was all about just the teachings that my dad taught me. So one of them was, and he used to carry on with this thing. He used to do my head in. Property is your pension. I used to say all the time, property is your pension. And in my 20s, I decided, because I've just bought a house, and I was putting myself through to get my master's in tourism management, which I do have now. And I realised that actually, this house that I've bought, if I do the calculations, I'd have paid about extra 90 odd thousand pounds, almost £100,000 by the time it's paid off. Plus, it's a noose around my neck.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, then, if I don't want to have this as something as a debt, because my dad never ever owed anything. Every house he's had, we've always had it outright. Everything. He's never borrowed. People always borrowed from him. So in my mind, it's terrible to have even a mortgage. It's awful to have a loan, and you know. So I decided to save up, and I paid up all my bills up front for 2 years. So electricity, gas, water, TV, everything you can think of. And then I decided to give myself £20 a week spending money. And I was literally stringent. There was nothing beyond that. There was no exception to the rule at all. Bearing in mind, at the time, I did have a young child too. Okay. And I was going to university and having to get myself to work. So that included the £20 petrol, food for the week, everything. And I did it. And every week, and I'd even go out clubbing. So I've got friends who own nightclubs that get me free. I just have a bottle of water for £2 sometimes. Okay. You know, people buy me a bottle of water. And I did it. And I ended up buying my house outright after 2.5 years. And what that did...
What an achievement.
It was, but it didn't feel like... Because at the time, you didn't see the importance of that decision then, but it gave me choices. And that's what sacrifice does. And too many people say, oh, I'll give up this, but don't really give it up. And it's like, oh, well, I can't do without it. And they'll argue with you. But actually, you're actually arguing with yourself, not anyone else. You're stunting your own growth. So as a consequence of that, years later, when my dad was brutally tortured to death, and I had to hire private investigators and repatriate his body, and it came to £88,000. If I didn't have that good sense all those years before to give myself that opportunity, I wouldn't have been able to find that money to then fight and ultimately get justice where one of the perpetrators served 40 years to life in jail. So, you know, and that's the moral of the story. You don't know for today what you're actually doing for tomorrow. So prepare yourself, have contingencies, and really just make sure that you're setting your future up on your terms.
Wow. There's so much that you've just shared in that short period, you know, about resilience, about forward thinking, about sacrifice, about commitment, about vision, you know, that you had this idea that you want to do, and you was ready to pay the price for it. He's ready to pay the cost. He's ready to pay the sacrifice. And he's saying that some people at times argue with you and they don't get it, you know, but you're working towards going somewhere in the future. You're working towards principles that have been imparted to you, which I think is fantastic. There's something that you said around it gives you more choices. What would you say the kind of choices that it did give you, being able to pay your house outright and so forth, being able to buy it?
Well, I could do whatever I wanted to. If I wanted to set up a business at any given time, I wouldn't need to go and beg somebody for a loan, would I? You know, and then it's that when you go in front of somebody and you're asking for a loan, you've got to answer to them.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So it gave me that kind of choice. I supported family and friends. You know, people needed money. I was able to then say, do you know something, I'll support you, instead of them then falling on hard times.
Yeah.
You know, if I wanted to, for instance, my dad, I used to give him £2,000 a month for him to live on. Why? Because he was the greatest person on the planet and he deserved it. He deserved to retire at 40, which he did, and for me to give him the future that he had worked so hard for so many years. You know, and I'm glad that I did it, because he was only 59 when he was murdered. So at least I gave him something that he can enjoy himself and look after himself. You know. So yeah.
I mean, your story to me is very inspiring. You know, a lot of times when you get to meet somebody, sometimes you only see the outskirts of them, or you only see what you see on LinkedIn, or do you know what I mean? But when I was introduced to you, I was told that, you know, you're inspirational, you're doing lots of different things, you speak with power, you know. I was hearing all of these kind of things, and then I found out about the awards, and I found out about why you're doing the awards, and I just felt it was just so powerful that you could turn something so tragic, the pain, into something purposeful and something inspiring for a lot of other people. So would you like to speak a bit about the awards and a bit of why you started it as well?
Okay, so the award started because, yeah, it's where do you start from the awards? I actually wanted to say thank you to the MP that supported me, and he actually so happened at the time when he supported me was David Cameron's parliamentary secretary. He went on to be Theresa May's and then the Minister of Defence for the UK. Okay. And I just wanted to say thank you for his support, because I was receiving death threats, real death threats at the time.
Okay.
At the time of my father's murder, I worked for the government of Jamaica. And yeah, it was a tumultuous time. The easiest thing I always say to people, just Google me. You'll see it all in the Daily Mail, the Mirror, etc., lots of magazines. Because it was just horrendous. I ended up taking them to court and I won. And they actually had to pay me out. And it's obviously that just doesn't happen. You don't go up against the government. I was always told, don't go up against them. They're the giants. You can't beat them. But it was never about the winning. It was about sometimes someone has to be the first to stand up for injustice. And people will always get away, organisations will always get away with the behaviours unless somebody stands up. So the Lancashire Evening Post did a piece on me, and they did in October 2000, I believe, 14, there was a piece saying that out of 100% of murders in Jamaica, only 5% go to trial and conviction. Okay. And that's what I was standing up for, you know, because that's disgusting, you know. So, and I didn't want my dad just to be a statistic, because I knew full well if it was the other way around and I'd have died, my dad would do all he can to seek justice. And the other thing was, I was actually meant to be in that house the same morning when this happened. They didn't realise that my plans had changed last minute. It's a bungled robbery, but one of the murderers was my dad's nephew, my cousin. And so they believed I would be there. So obviously by killing me, they'd end up having the house and the cars, etc. And killing my dad. So because of that, they made a fatal error. If either my dad was left or I was left, we would fight, because we are fighters in terms of we always fight for what's right and never for what we want for ourselves. Because if it was up to me, I just wanted the ground to swallow me up and just die with my dad. So I actually received an official letter from the Jamaican government, and it went via the Foreign Office. They sent it to the Foreign Office first and then to me, and it was summoning me over to Jamaica. And this was sent to me on the 23rd of December 2014. So I knew that I was going to my death, because I was told if I step foot in Jamaica, they're going to send a gunman for me. And that was straight up. So I literally just prepared myself, because it was 2 days before Christmas, to die. So I set my will. I actually made preparations for my kids, said goodbye to them, my partner, everybody I could think of, knowing I'm going to go to my death. And as a fighter, I don't give up. So I researched something online, and I made an appointment for my first clinic with my MP, and it so happened to be Gavin. And when I showed him and told him everything that was going on, he was disgusted, and he says, no, Zoe, I'm going to save you. And I'm like thinking, oh, bless him. In my head, I'm like, oh, bless. He really thinks he can. So, and actually, true to his word, he had a meeting at the House of Commons for me first, and then he chaired a meeting at the Foreign Office, and then within weeks, one of the murderers got 40 years to life without parole. And that's why I wanted to say thank you to him. And I wanted to know, how do you say thank you to someone who's literally saved your life? How do you do that? And so I said, okay, I can't give him just a bottle of wine or, you know, some house whiskey or whatever. Okay, I said, okay, I want to give him an award, but I couldn't find any awards out there, any award ceremonies that was befitting of a good title for him. So I said, okay, I'll create one. And it's just going to be created for this year. And so I did, and I thought, okay, because it's never about me or about just my dad or whatever else, it's about using a platform for other people. So I'm always channeling my dad, I'm always asking my dad, even now, for advice. And as he says to me, just use it to allow other people to say thank you to their unsung heroes. And that's how it came about.
Oh, that's a powerful story, you know, and it's so amazing. As you said earlier, it's about how you process things, you know, because even though you found it to be one of the most challenging times of your life, you said that you wanted the ground to swallow you up. You stood up, you know, and it sounds like the testament of just all the great lessons that your dad has given you, all the qualities that he's instilled in you, all the modeling that he's done in front of you, you know, that he could receive back from you what he already poured into you, you know, and that you would stand up and take that stance, and just the integrity of being willing to even go to Jamaica and know that it wouldn't have been a good thing for you, but out of integrity. So I just think that's really powerful, and to be able to make an awards out of that, to be able to create a platform that others can shine out of that, you know, I've really benefited from that platform as well. And I just really want to say just thank you, you know, thank you for being you, and for coming through, you know, what would have been a difficult time, but just seeing how you've turned that around, you know, in your own life. And what would you say that are some of the qualities that you've gained from it? What are some of the life lessons that you've gained from that period that now are turning around the lives of other people and impacting other people right now?
Do you know something? I can tell you the answer to that, but I'm going to have to tell you just a lead up to there, because I didn't become solid in terms of how I stand up just like that.
Yeah.
So I've gone through extreme adversity throughout. That's my dad being brutally murdered is terrible, but that's not it, if you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So the other things that happened to me before sets me up to be ready to take this on, you know, with obviously the teachings of a great mentor, my dad. So I'll give you a quick timeline. So I was literally abused throughout my whole childhood. Then when I was 16, I was kidnapped, and then all separate incidents. And then one night, just coming to some flats, a gun was held to my head. And then in my 20s, I was brutally attacked in my own house and raped, and the perpetrator served 3 years in jail. And then led on to my father being bruised. So everything that led up to it was strengthening me and giving me that resolve to say, I am not going to be the victim that somebody else wants me to be. And that's how I ended up being so strong, ready for when my dad was murdered. You know, so it was just it was a culmination of so many things. And if you have the mindset that, do you know something, you go through things for a reason, good, bad or indifferent. If you think that it's not a case of it's not doing it to you, it's doing it for you, and you have the mindset like that, you will empower yourself, and nothing and nobody can penetrate it. And you will feel like you've got this shield, and words can just bounce off you, things will bounce off you, because guess what? You are stronger than anything that can try and pull you down. And that's what did it for me. And that's what I would say. Strengthen yourself, strengthen your mind.
Wow. That was just, I was just feeling like I was in one of your talks in that moment. I can see why you're the motivational queen. And it's so true. You know, it's so true. You know, when it's people say life is what you make of it, you know, and a lot of it's got to do with the testament of who you are, you know, your essence as well, because you can have a lot of people that go through the same exact situations or the same exact circumstances that may not make those choices. They may not make those decisions to bounce back. They may not make those decisions to better themselves, to be able to better others, you know. So some of it is you as a person as well, and the inspiration of your father and inspiration of all the different people, and the fact that you've learned these lessons and accepted these lessons. So what would you say to someone that is going through a tough time right now? They're going through a challenging time right now.
That's easy.
Just give us some inspiration. Just share to that person right now.
Easiest thing is stop saying, woe is me. Say, why not me? You know, if you say, why not me? Because it shows you that, yes, it's come here for a reason. It's about reasoning with whatever it is that's presenting itself in front of you and looking at what is the real message behind it. If you can understand the message, then you don't feel so bogged down by it. If you actually list your attributes, you list your strengths, and then lead with those strengths, not based on what other people tell you that you are and what you can do. It's based on what you believe that you can do. And if you believe that you can do it, you can achieve it. But when you're in that, it's not easy when you're in a funk. I get it. It's not easy. But you've got to just believe in yourself. Believe that you're here for a purpose. If you can believe you're here for a purpose, then you will then push forward and do something about it and be more, You'll be inspiring to other people. Know that people are watching you.
Yeah.
People silently judge. People don't always come out and tell you what they're saying or what they're thinking, but they are judging. And in terms of when I say that, you've got youth behind you when they're looking at you and they're looking for that inspiration from you. Remember that every action that you do is not gone unnoticed. So if you lead with a negative reaction or an action, they're watching that and they're emulating it. So always be the best version that you can be. Not always about you, it's about other people. If you lead with other people first about how you can impact their lives, your life will be enriched.
Yes, and I totally agree. I totally agree. And those are some of the things that I've had to really put into practice in my own life and on my own journey. So that resonates with me as well. And I just really want people to be able to engage with you, and what you're doing and this, the work that you're doing in the community, in your own business life and so forth. So what are the places that people can find you? Where on social media can they see you?
Goodness me, type in Motivational Queen Zoe Bennett. But the easiest way is just go straight to my website. And that's www.motivationalqueen.com. That's the easiest way, If you want to find out more about me, just literally Google my name. You can use different ones: Motivational Queen, Zoe Bennett Jamaica, and you'll see all the articles on there. There's honestly, and if you're ever feeling, something, I can't get through this, literally look at some of my stories. And if I can do it, and I'm just a girl from Preston, let me just tell you that, from Preston, Lancashire, born and bred. If I can do this, anyone can do it. But you've got to believe in yourself.
Wow. I've been so encouraged by today. I really have. And what has been encouraging for me is to find out more of who you are. I feel that the person behind the professional is so important. I feel that the person behind the achiever, the person behind, the image a lot of times, as a speaker a lot of times, or a motivator, you're always putting your best foot forward. You're always presenting yourself and saying that you can make it and you can overcome. And a lot of times people don't see what we've had to overcome. A lot of times people don't understand that. So being able to get more insight concerning your story and what makes Zoe has been amazing.
And I love that. But for me, I know that what makes Zoe amazing, but I want everyone else to be amazing.
Yeah.
And that's why I work with other people. So people can work with me. I can get them literally their mojo flying and soaring and slaying.
Wow. Well, make sure you go and check out Zoe on social media. She's a cross-platform. She does lots of things on LinkedIn, Facebook. She's all over the place, but she's definitely someone that is walking her talk. She's definitely walking her talk, and she's an inspiration. And the fact that she's put on the awards and creating a platform for other people to be inspired. And as she said, it's not just about Zoe. She wants to be able to make you become the best version of yourself, enable you to be able to be on fire and you to be able to achieve your goals as well. So definitely connect with her. Definitely go and look up her courses, her work, all the different things that she does to ensure that you can engage with her outside of today. So listen, Zoe, thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you for turning up today, for showing up, in Technicolor and digital and everything. And I'm really glad that we've done this show today. I really am. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Zoe. And if you want to find out more